Communications and Public Affairs Director for the City of Yakima. During this news conference, statements are going to be made by Mayor Kathy Coffey and Yakima Police Chief Dominic Rizzi. We're also going to provide an opportunity following the statements from Mayor Coffey and from Chief Rizzi for you to ask a few questions. City Manager Cliff Moore is also here to answer questions that he may be uniquely able to respond to. Please keep in mind that certain information about recent incidents of violence in our community cannot be shared at this time in order to protect the integrity of the ongoing investigations, and I ask you to please consider that when you are formulating your questions. So first, Mayor Kathy Coffey will make a brief statement.
Thank you, Randy. I'm going to read a brief comment, and then, as Randy said, we will be available for questions afterwards. Recent incidents of violence in Yakima, including our community's 6th homicide this year, which occurred yesterday, have understandably raised concerns regarding public safety. Each of these incidents of violence represents a tragedy. Lives have been lost. Families of victims have been affected to a level few of us can comprehend. For many, the sense of safety in our community has been tested. On behalf of the entire Yakima City Council, I express our concern as well and our understanding of the heightened anxiety being experienced by some people who live and work in Yakima. Be assured that the Yakima City Council is closely monitoring the progress on the investigations into recent incidents of violence here in our community. Council members are receiving regular updates from the City Manager and the Yakima Police Department about the efforts underway to combat violence and are providing appropriate guidance to our city's administration. Please know that every effort is being made to bring the perpetrators of these recent incidents of violence to justice. The Yakima Police Department is partnering with other law enforcement agencies to not just identify suspects and arrest them, but to ensure their convictions. I have asked the City Manager and the Council Public Safety Committee to begin a process to consider additional expenditures for specific emphasis patrols by the police department that would put more officers on the street for a defined period of time. That process is underway. The incidents of violence that have occurred recently must be addressed, and they are being addressed. Chief Rizzi will tell you in just a moment what is being done to find those that want to do our community harm and to bring them to justice. Chief Rizzi will also share with you how the community can help, and that's imperative. I'm confident that the Yakima community will stand up to the recent violence and join with the law enforcement community to bring it to an end. Yakima is our community, and we will not let those few who want to do it harm disrupt our sense of safety and security. Thank you. Chief Rizzi.
Thank you, Mayor Coffey. The mayor talked a little bit about the extra effort that is underway by our law enforcement professionals to use available resources to respond to the recent incidents of violence in Yakima. Yakima Police Chief Dominic Rizzi has joined us today to provide a few more details about how those resources are being deployed. Chief Rizzi.
Like everyone else in the community, we're extremely disturbed by the series of events that have been taking place over the last several months and maybe even the past year. It's not acceptable for a police department. It's not acceptable for a community. It shouldn't be acceptable for anybody when we see violence like that, because one victim is one too many. Every one of our officers works and comes to the city, does their shopping, and when you look at the demographics or the geographic footprint of the city, we're the place that you have to come to, and we want to maintain that integrity for anyone that comes here. Our officers are part of the community, and they take it very serious when something like this happens. They're working extremely hard for it, so at no point would we ever downplay the seriousness of what's going on here in the city. That being said, what are we doing right now with this? As the mayor mentioned, we're going to be engaging council and the city manager for some additional resources so we can look at deploying our resources in an appropriate manner to get the biggest bang for the buck. We have intelligence, we have a way that we can go out there and deploy our officers and try and curtail some of the violence. We have a great working relationship with the prosecutor's office, so when we do make arrests, they do a great job of helping with the case and bringing these individuals to justice. We also work with the FBI, ATF, DEA, Homeland Security, Department of Corrections in the county and the state. We work with the Sheriff's Office. And as a group, we all recognize that the issues going on are not isolated to our city, that this is a countywide problem. And the only way that we can address this is through a countywide effort. And not just the law enforcement, but every member of the community, everyone that comes here to visit and play. How can we move forward from this point is a large majority of crimes are solved not by, you know, the great detective, but because someone in the community called us and gave us a tip or a clue or gave us information or a video. Maybe they have a video camera in their house and, you know, we look at it and develop some information. I know the public is at wit's end with this and they're ready to confront this. And as a community, we need to step up and start to share that information with us, with law enforcement. It could be with the county, it could be with the prosecutor's office, it could be with you know, my detectives and my patrol officers. But we need that information. When people commit crimes, they don't keep it to themselves. They talk about it, they share it, they place it on social media. We need the public to come forth with that information. And that's how, as a community, we can turn this tide and actually make a big difference and diminish these number of violent acts that are going on. Talking with the members of my department, we recognize that there's a small number of individuals that are responsible for probably 80% of the violence that's going on. There's a lot of people out there that know who they are, and we need information on them. We need some evidence. We need someone to step up and say, yeah, they did it, here's some information that can help you with the prosecution. If we can get them off the street, I think we would see a significant drop in violence here in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. A few questions from media. Anybody?
What is specifically different? So this press conference was to address, we've seen all of this recent violence, what's being done. How is what's being now different from what was being done 2 days ago or a month ago?
It's an outcry to the public that we are developing information. So it's not that it's different, it's that we have an obligation to inform the public on what we are doing, that our partners are working with us to help develop this. We're pleading to the public to help us come forward. So it's not that we're changing because we're constantly evolving on how we present this. We feel it's our obligation to bring it to the public and share with them what we're doing and what we need to help us solve this.
Why this shooting and not the AM/PM? I thought that would be a lot of people in this community thought that would be the one where we hear from city officials. Why this one?
I think when you look at it, if we came forth on the AM/PM, it would have been, well, why not the shooting last week or the shooting next week? If we wait for another month or 2 months or 6 months, you can always look at that. I think the more important thing is that we are doing it, that we are coming to the public, and the timing is, it's just a matter of, you know, we're recognizing that it's time that we do need to bring the public in here and update them on what we're doing.
Other questions?
Chief, tell us about the current gang unit. What is, do we have, how many gang units do we have out there?
Well, we have one gang unit, but we have 2 teams. We have officers out there 7 days a week, and they work on an intelligence-based response. So they're not going to have a specific location every day that they're going to, or a specific start time. They're going to adjust based on the intelligence they gather through different various sources. It could be through crime stats, it could be through informants, it could be through social media posts. Well, they respond and adjust their schedule and location based on the trends that are going on. But they're out there 7 days a week in response to this.
Are they officers that are assigned to the gang unit constantly, or are they changing
Well,
every?
we have a temporary detail of 3 officers assigned with a veteran sergeant, and then we also have a number of other officers that are actually assigned to task force and the gang unit.
Thank you, Chief.
We've heard this idea kind of thrown around that when things like this happen, a kid just walking along the street gets shot. It's some sort of gang initiation. It's a specific time that this sort of killing repeatedly happens. Is there any truth to that theory?
Well, you're speaking a very generalized theory that could be for any shooting anywhere. In this particular case, we don't have any information that we can share with you, but I would be very skeptical that this was an initiation shooting. As I pointed out before, when you look at the crime going on with these shootings, because it takes a certain type of individual to actually go out and start shooting people, it's a very limited number. And I personally believe at this side, and I haven't talked to my captain yet, but I would believe that this would be associated with someone who's not afraid to shoot and is not doing it for retaliation, although I haven't confirmed that.
Other questions? We talked a little bit about priority, talked about a little bit about resources and how those resources are deployed within the city of Yakima. And just so people in the community have some context about the priority that public safety plays in the city of Yakima, I think Cliff Morgan, our city manager, can address a little bit about how the resources that we have available to us are being utilized.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you for being here today. I think Randy's correct. One of the measures, one of the ways that you look at how a city is implementing its priorities is through budget decisions. In our case, in 2017, in the city of Yakima, the police account for 43% of our general fund budget, police and courts. That equates to $34 million. When you add in fire and emergency management, another $19 million. Public safety accounts for 68% of our overall budget. So that's, I think, a demonstration by far and away that public safety is the highest priority for the community and council. And we'll be continuing to have these conversations about how we deploy the budget, how we deploy perhaps additional funding for alternative approaches to dealing with violence in the community, including perhaps looking at ways that we engage young people in those critical hours from 3 in the afternoon to 6 in the evening when they're most likely to get in trouble. Those are all strategies that have proven to be successful in reducing the number of young people that get engaged with the criminal justice system. But just so the community is aware, through the deployment of our budget, 68% for public safety, that's a clear indication that it is a high priority for the council.
Okay, any other questions at this point in time? If not, thank you for being here today.
General question?
Oh, sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so, my name's Ruby Irving, I live down in, the south part of town, so I hear gunshots all the time. The gang unit task force, from what I understand, got disassembled here a year or two ago, when I first came into town. Can you maybe speak a little bit about what the trends were when you had the task force here compared to what the trends are now?
Well,
Did it decrease over the short period of time?
chief mentioned
No,
that.
I'm not sure where you got your information, but we never disbanded our gang unit. On the contrary, we have more officers today than we did 5 years ago dedicated to the gang unit. When I first came in here, there were 4 officers on the gang unit, and we have approximately double that now. So,
Are they still going door to door to talk to gang members or gang members' families? Are they still doing any kind of community outreach with
the
those
gang
prime
unit is not a
areas?
community outreach unit. We have community outreach programs. They have a certain way of doing business, and it constantly changes. They liaison with other gang units throughout the state and throughout the nation to look at best tactics on how do we move forward when we're talking about combating the gang issue. So they're constantly reevaluating what they do and how they do it. And there's probably times where going to the games and talking with them and their families is appropriate. But right now, I think it's the high visibility, letting the gangs see them where they start make these contacts, identifying who the gangs are, who the members are, and what their individual threat to society is, so we have that intelligence base. So, but we've never disbanded the unit.
Well, the paper, I believe it was in the paper that stated something about something being disbanded because of funds. And I don't know if that was recent or if that
Oh,
was.
I think what you're referencing is the Gang-Free Initiative. The Gang-Free Initiative is it's not a police department program for suppression, it's intervention and prevention. And I personally can't speak on that. That was an issue under the previous city manager. We've had discussions. I know it's a topic that the mayor is very concerned about. I know other council members have brought it up, that as a city, we do need to look at intervention and prevention. How we move forward from it is going to be a lot of discussion on what do we do as we move forward regarding that.
So who would I talk to find the statistics
So,
for those
how,
timeframes?
how about after this news conference is over, we'll have a quick chat with you and we'll point you in the direction of some folks that can offer you those resources.
All right.
Okay, with that,
Randy, I
Yeah.
have a question for the chief.
yes,
Actually, any of the city officials, I think the bottom line here is that people are scared. People are scared, people are tired of the violence, tired of being locked out of their neighborhoods. I think a year ago, we saw a lot more presence of the gang unit. It was everywhere, people were talking about it, our gang shootings were down. You know, I guess the question is, I mean, how do we ease fear? How do we ease fear in this community? I mean, and it's gotta be more than, well, if you're not a gang member, you're not gonna get shot.
Well, I think that's why I suggested yesterday that we look at the emphasis patrol. You may, Lance, you were here many years ago, Sonia Rodriguez True put forward the initiative as far as emphasis patrol, and it was very effective at the time. It's not a long term, but it can be used very effectively to calm the waters. And our job as city council members is to make sure that the chief has the resources and YPD has the resources to do their job effectively. And we will be bringing that forward. I know Councilmember Lover is here, Councilmember Mendez chairs the Public Safety Committee, and we'll be discussing that. It is important that public safety is our highest priority, and that's why it's going to be coming forward this week. And whatever we have to do, we need to make this the highest priority, make sure the funds are available for the chief to do the job, and make sure that the gang units have the opportunity to get out there when they need to.
But you admit, I mean, there's fear in this community. isn't there?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm not denying that. And that's why we're having this press conference right now, telling you what we're going to be doing and giving you the opportunity to ask the questions.
all right. Thank you very much for coming, we appreciate it, and more information will be provided as appropriate. Thank you.